Okay, good evening, everyone. Sorry you guys received the meeting packet late today. We had a lot going on this week with a lot of meetings, a lot of important things happening. So with that, Jean, we'll get going on the SBC meeting, and can you turn to the agenda, please?
Sure. You need to call a roll, Lynn?
Yes, I was just gonna run through the agenda, but yes, I can do a roll call first. And Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Brian Castellanos, Deb Ruggiero, Dr. Alvarez, Diana Turkudis,
Present.
Flory Makua,
Present.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley,
Present.
John Ford, Joe Smart,
Present.
Karen Miller,
Present.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Present.
Lauren Drago,
Present.
Lorraine Gately. She said she may be late. Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan, Mike, Donovan?
He's
Okay.
here.
Yeah, Molly Cohen, Peter Koulikides, Rich Marlin,
Present.
Rick Starbird,
Present.
Tom Mannion,
Present.
Tom McGee,
Present.
Wayne Losey. And that's it. I had
Oh,
counted.
Brian is just entering. Castellanos.
Okay. So I had counted that we had a quorum, so with that, do you want to run through the agenda real quick while people are still joining? We have administrative actions coming up. We have approval of the May 17th meeting minutes. We have a budget update, and we also have a recommendation for the CM selection group, and to recommend a CM for the construction project. Then we have the designer update, a little bit about the progress we've made with design, a little bit about where we stand with the Article 97, and then a quick schedule review.
I just submitted Pam Bailey from Bond.
Okay,
I'm doing my best.
okay, thank you. With that, can you change the slide too?
Okay.
Putting you to work tonight, Jean.
Hey, run me through.
So first is approval of the May 17th, 2023 SBC meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next up is a quick budget review. We have expended 62% of the feasibility study budget. We've committed 90% of that budget, and we are currently at about 62% complete with the work. So we're tracking fairly well. Next slide. In terms of cash flow, we're still tracking slightly below our projections. So that too is tracking well. We do have a few contract amendments that will be coming up to continue to do due diligence work on the site. And then we'll also have the schematic design pre-construction payments to the CM when they come aboard. Next. Tim, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the process that we went through for the CM at risk procurement.
Okay. So last meeting, we discussed firms that had been pre-qualified. So we pre-qualified all 6 firms that submitted, but as you will notice on this slide, there's only 5, WT Rich, who was pre-qualified, decided not to submit a proposal. So we received 5 proposals from Bond, Consigli, Gilbane, Shawmut, and Suffolk. We received those on June 1st, and we had already told the CMs to hold placeholders for June 5th and 6th, and that we would be scheduling interviews based on proposals that were submitted.
So if you want to talk a little bit about the valuation process, and then I'm going to ask a few of the members that were on the selection committee to, make some comments based on the process.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Yep.
Could we get a little, instead of a brief rundown, I'd like to get a little more robust rundown. And we weren't able to get the documents till this afternoon, which is fine, but I'd like to get a good rundown of the process, how it went, and a little bit of an explanation on the scoring and how that went through. So I don't know if that's
Yep.
Tim or the members of the committee, but I think that would be helpful for us to understand how that went, how the interviews went, and how the process played out as we were going to a vote tonight.
Okay, so basically on June 5th and 6th, all 6 members of the CM selection subcommittee met with both Left Field and Raymond were there as well. And basically the way we rank our the CM firms is on a weighted approach. So we have 3 categories, which is we rate their proposal, we rate the interview, and then in the CMR world, you also get a separate submission that we don't view until after we've done rated the first 2 categories, and that's CM pricing, where they submit fees. I don't know, do you want me to share the screen, Lynn, or do you just want me to talk about it?
For the technical proposals, the scoring had a was worth 25% of the overall score, and the interviews were worth 50%. After the last night, we opened the price proposals and compared the costs that were submitted. We looked at basically the fee and the schematic design and pre-construction costs, because those are the costs that we know won't change from day one through the project. We asked for a lot of other cost information as well, for general conditions, general requirements. We asked for that for informational purposes, but those costs tend to change as the project moves forward and the scope is further defined, schedule is set, and whatnot. So we looked at the costs that wouldn't change so that we would be looking at an apples to apples comparison. So as Tim said, we ranked the technical proposals first, then the interviews, and then the price, and the price was worth 25% of the overall score as well. So the committee, oftentimes there's various scoring categories that are utilized. This committee chose to rank them straight 1 through 5 in each of the categories. So we went through that entire process. I think maybe if at this point we want to talk a little bit about the individual firms, we can do that as to what some of the pros and cons were of each. Is that what you're looking to hear from, Tom?
Yeah, that'd be great. And if you can maybe put it up on the screen so we can just kind of follow along as you're making that explanation, but that would be helpful. Thank you, Lynn.
Lynn, you want me to stop sharing?
I think it might be difficult. Do you,
I know.
Do any of the subcommittee members want to give some of their feedback, Lynn, or?
yeah, let's go through to the subcommittee. We had 9 people that were part of the selection committee. And maybe it'd be good while we're trying to set this up to hear from each of them.
Well, I can certainly go. So I pretty much what helped me rank them, and I'm sure we'll see this at the end, was really how they approach logistic in this very dense neighborhood. Communication, the approach on communication with, again, the community, and just their safety overall. Any OSHA regulations or OSHA non-safe practice, any points that they received in the past, that certainly helped my my ranking. And the overall project team, again, I've worked with all these vendors contract in the past. They're all able and capable of doing this project, but it comes down to the project team. You know, some have a project team, it was a mix of folks who have a lot of talents and some folks who are just starting with in their career. So that really, with me having a mixed group of project team members, allow me to, you know, rank them the way I rank them. I'm sure we'll see them at the end. And we were all different. Everyone on the team had a different approach on all this. So at least these 4 items, so logistic, communication, safety, and overall project team, it was that's the way I decided to rank them on.
Rich, do you want to?
Sure. I mean, so obviously, all 5 of these contractors, they could do this job. So as was Corey just said, it was really, there was an interview process, and then we had some follow-up questions. I actually asked all of them, each one individually, what they knew about the Inflation Reduction Act and how they thought it could help us in terms of pricing and bringing the cost down. There was a variety of answers on that. You know, like all of us, no one completely knows what it means yet, so everyone's still kind of figuring it out. So I think a lot of it was the interview team and the teams that were put together kind of were probably the deciding factor, thinking back on it.
Mike, do you?
Sure. Following up on what Flory and Rich said, we all got a chance to talk to potential project teams and hear what their opinions and insights into the project was, which gave us a chance to see how well they've looked into the project. Some of them had looked into it.
Can everybody who's not talking, please mute? Sorry, Mike, we're having a little hard time hearing you. If you're not Mike, could you please mute?
Gene, can you mute Tom?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So it gave us a chance to talk to the teams, project teams, and see what their opinion is, means and methods, how much research they had performed onto this particular project. And some of them had looked more into the budget, some of them had looked into methods of construction, the soils and site. So all 5 firms are more than qualified to do the jobs, but getting insights from the different teams definitely led me to see their enthusiasm combined with their experience and how they were focusing on solving this problem budget-wise. Really gave us insight on those 2 days, and I'll be honest with you.
Kevin, do you have anything to add?
Sure. As a couple others have mentioned, one of my concerns was the fact that this building was going to be built around an elementary and a middle school, what safety precautions would be put in place, as well as communication with the neighborhood and the families that would be involved by the new school. And also the particular experience they had working with, I forget the number they called it, but there was a construction type when you're dealing with Massachusetts public school buildings. So it was nice hearing those insights and seeing who had the most experience in that particular area. I think it was 149 or something like that.
Okay, Jean or John Bartecki from RDA, do you guys want to add to the conversation?
Well, at this point, it's going to sound very repetitive. Obviously, all 5 can do it. They're all qualified. They're all really solid firms. I think the interview played a big part, and I agree with what Mike was saying. You know, we were looking for someone that really understood the job. And then we were just looking to get a sense for who could jump into it quickly and who we could team with quickly, given the schedule that we have as far as setting a budget for it. So I don't have
And-
much.
And we took down comments throughout the deliberations. And Tim, do you want to go through some of the comments specific to each of the teams?
Sure. So I'll just do them in order that they're here on the slide. So basically all these teams, as everyone has said, have good resumes. They're well-established firms. They're all capable of doing the job. They really looked for project similarities from each of their teams and to really demonstrate how they can transfer knowledge of one project to the other. And I would say probably from my notes that the big takeaway, and I'm not going to name which firm it is at this point, but what the firm that ended up being recommended, I'd say that what we took away for the positive from them was they're very I'm not sure what the word is, but great approach at understanding the financial implications that this has on the city of Lynn. They were very sensitive to that issue. And especially one of the questions that all firms were asked was how would you help the city and help this project, basically form a GMP that will carry the project through completion, and we won't have to tap in to the external construction contingency, because that's not often reimbursable for these projects. And that reimbursement already being lower than what was expected is critical to the city affording. And all firms gave good answers, but there was definitely one firm that gave very specific, very targeted responses to those questions. And then another question that came into focus was one from Rich Marlin on the Inflation Reduction Act. And this is new for everyone, so we weren't expecting anyone to be like experts at it. But basically there are a lot of credits and other funds that are available for the city that could help with the cost of the project. And again, one firm, I don't know if it's a separate company, Lynn, but they had another organization that's a part of their structure that really deals with learning and understanding these type of programs that are out there, as well as other schedule advantages that really come. The second challenge with this project is meeting a very tight construction schedule, and they all did very good work thinking about it. But again, at the end of the day, after we were done reviewing all the proposals and the interviews, there was one firm that kind of stood out, that kind of gave the just very, very specific and not really any general points on how they would accomplish both schedule and their budget.
So we did take a deep dive into each of the teams, because that's who this group will be working with. And we took a look at the people that were assigned to the project, what are the projects they were currently on, and the schedule of those projects. And so that weighed into the overall decision as well. So with that, you want to go to the next slide, and well, first, Tom, is there any more you want to hear from the group before we tell you what the group's recommendation is?
That was really helpful, and it seems like there was a consensus across the board, and the questions and the important issues seem to be reflected in all the responses. So I think it was very helpful to hear what the process was and people's thoughts on it, and so that was helpful. I appreciate everyone giving their perspective. It's helpful for those that weren't part of the subcommittee process. Thank you, Lynn. And thank you to all those that were part of that process.
Okay, next slide, Jean. So the selection committee recommends Consigli to be awarded the construction manager at risk contract. And so at this point, if there are any questions, we will like to answer them now or ask for a vote.
And then just one clarification, Lynn, because the project still needs final approvals at the end of schematic design. The vote for tonight is just to execute the contract for pre-construction services through the end of schematic design. And then pending project passage, the pre-construction will be amended for the design for the other design phases.
But would we take a second vote for that, or when we take the first vote, the next one just automatically happens when we get there?
The next vote would be to amend this
Right.
initial
Okay.
contract to go to the next phase. Is that what you
Right.
mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion.
for any contract amendment, the committee would have to approve for any of us. So not just
I just have a quick question for Jean here. So you have to release an early package to support this this process? Okay.
We will, we're gonna complete the schematic design, establish the budget, and get the approval from MSBA, Flory. And then if the project goes forward, we'll start design development. We'll work about 6 months on the quote unquote blueprints, and then we'll start releasing early packages. So we're definitely a ways from that. We're just trying to get down the plan, the elevations, the site plan, and get a budget during this phase.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll make a motion to go forward with the schematic design for Consigli.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Yes.
Brian Castellanos,
Yes.
Deb Ruggiero, Dr. Alvarez, Diane Tricudis,
Yes.
Gloria Makua,
Yes.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley,
Yes.
John Ford, Joe Smart,
Yes.
Karen Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Yes.
Lauren Drago,
Yes.
Lorraine Gately. I saw she joined. No.
I
Okay.
just got here, so I really didn't get to see this, but is this the one you researched, the group researched?
This, the one that yes, this is a result of interviews and technical proposals and price proposals that were submitted.
Okay, then yes.
Michael Bertino, Michael Donovan,
Yes.
Molly Cohen, Peter Koulikides, Rich Marlin,
Yes.
Rick Starbird,
Yes.
Tom Mannion,
Yes.
Tom McGee,
yes.
Wayne Lozey. That's it. So the next steps
Good.
will be to put together the contract, and as Tim said, it will only be for the schematic design phase at this point. We'll call Consigli and work with them to get the contract into the city so that it can be signed and they can get to work right away.
I just want to,
I was going to ask a quick question, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
yes, go ahead, please.
Now that we've approved the Consigli, I know there's been some discussions related to energy efficiency lead, and I know that's been an ongoing discussion with the MSBA. And I know Rich and some of you have been involved in the Inflation Reduction Act. is there a continued opportunity to work with Consigli? And I know we're on a small time frame to look for dollars that specifically go towards energy efficiency in new buildings. I know that's been an ongoing discussion. I've read some articles in the paper, and I know that's an ongoing discussion that's happening. So I just bring it up because it's maybe it's an opportunity to both improve the savings over time, but hopefully see some dollars that might be available through the Inflation Reduction Act. So I just bring it up. Not that we have to deal with it today, but it's probably relevant as we're moving forward. So maybe that's not the case, but I know people are still getting their hands around the Inflation Reduction Act and what opportunities they have for dollars, considering we're trying to find the money to make this happen.
So that was the company that Tim alluded to is Arch Energy, which is a company of Consigli's that would be available to help us explore that, as well as other energy efficiency rebates and stuff.
Well,
And
if I
we've
could
already-
jump in. So two things, one of which I had a conversation with Jack McCarthy, either the June or the August meeting. They're going to take some kind of a vote, and don't hold me to the specifics, but that any savings, any money we accrue from the Inflation Reduction Act, they are not going to take it back from us. I know there was some concerns that if we get monies from other sources, that they just reduce what they're going to give us. So apparently they're not going to do that, but we need to follow up. And then today we had a meeting with Quentin Palfrey, who's the governor's lead person on trying to make sure we get all this money we can get. So we're gonna set up a meeting with him and Jack McCarthy to kind of go over and figure out how we can maximize, not just for this school, but for all schools around the state, getting all the money we can on some of these and trying to figure out exactly how they work. But Tom, to your particular question, since some of this stuff actually goes out when the documents go out, so we're, at least 6 months away from some of these bid documents. So we have plenty of time to get in and try to get this money.
We've already started the process with Ingrid as well. We had a meeting with them to talk about energy efficiencies and what we can get back for rebates as well. And RDA's consultant, GGD, is looking at various mechanical systems, and they all provide different levels of rebates. So we're waiting for that analysis so that we can go through the process of determining which makes the most sense for the school.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to thank all the bidders for their interest, congratulate Consigli, and also thank the project team and particularly the subcommittee for all the work in doing this analysis and making the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next slide.
So this is us. So we, since we last met, we've been, as Lynn said, pretty busy, touching a lot of different things. One of the things that we're pulling together for submission to MSBA on Friday are responses to questions that they had, none of which caused any concern, but a lot of times they just ask for clarifications. Like, how's your traffic flow going to work, or how are the kids going to get from the upper floors down to the cafeteria and back, things like that. So we've been working with the district and with Left Field and ourselves and the city through the building commissioner to pull together responses, and we're submitting that this Friday, which is their deadline. We also have been working on the floor plans to kind of bring them to the next level, because as I mentioned earlier, we're in schematic design. So we're actually thinking about structural systems, mechanical systems, the precise layout of how big rooms are, how big corridors are, how big toilets are, where everything is. the type of drawings that are more developed than what you see here on the right side. So that our cost estimator and Consigli's cost estimate team can both do independent estimates, and we can work to look at options and come up with a budget that's as lean and mean as we can. And then that'll be a big part of the submission to MSBA at the end of August. The entire project budget, but obviously the biggest part of that is going to be the construction budget. And it'll be based on, these more developed drawings. So as part of nailing down kind of the final floor plan, we did conduct a couple of tours through recently constructed middle schools. These are schools that have been operating for like the last 5 years. I'll show you some pictures. One was Situate Middle School, and one was a middle school in Boston. We need to finalize the foundations. We think we're, and again, this relates to the cost estimate and making the building real. So we think we're on good soil, right? We're not in Magnolia Park anymore with the crazy pile foundations. But we do have another series of geotechnical borings scheduled up on the Pickering site and kind of where the tennis courts are under the, the footprint of this building. Those are going to start taking place June 26th. And as Lynn mentioned, another big part, putting the not only the kind of capital budget for this project, but looking at the operational cost year after year going forward, is selecting the mechanical system with the best value. We know we have to meet a new stretch energy code, which is, it's going to require a certain budget, but the benefit is you're going to have a very efficient building, again, on your yearly operating costs. And we did have a meeting with a big group of people, on the city side and our side. And we discussed, I think, 5 or 6 different potential HVAC systems. And we kind of narrowed down to, I think, 4 that we're going to look at in depth. They all have pros and cons. And our mechanical engineer is in the process right now of running what they call a life cycle cost analysis. So each of these systems will have a different first cost. They'll all have different levels of efficiency. So we're using utility bills that your rates that you have right now. They'll be able to provide ballpark estimates of what the operating costs are going to be year to year. And then we're also going to look at maintenance costs, replacement costs, 25 years down the line, 40 years down the line. So the whole life cycle of the system, which could run 50 years, we're going to do a comparison and come back and as a group make a recommendation for what everyone thinks the best value for this building is. And then finally, we've had a number of meetings continuing to push forward on the Article 97 land transfer and this MIPA permit that has to be in place for the project. So, as I said, we've been all over the place working on a lot of different things. Anyone have any questions before I go to the next slide? So we went to, as I said, these 2 schools, they look very different. The one in Situate is a 2-story school. It's kind of spread out. It's, a suburban site. It's based on very strongly on classroom neighborhoods, which is one of the guiding principles that came out of all our work, on the programming and visioning side. And then we also went to the Dearborn STEM Academy, which is an urban school. So this is 4 stories high on a very compact lot, similar to what you'll be dealing with in at Pickering. And let me just clarify. So we reached out, Kevin Ritter's house came representing the school district, and Laura Stockfish came representing ISD. And that was myself and Steve Lamoth from our office. And we find that these are very helpful because, you know, as the architect, we can show pictures and talk about, you know, all these things that we've experienced, but for people on the city side to be able to actually experience the spaces and say, oh yeah, I get it. I know what you're talking about. That's the reason that we took a day and we did this. Probably the biggest thing that is, I'll say a trend, and I think it's a good one. Since we did Thurgood Marshall, we've been talking about these extended learning spaces. So not just having teaching going on inside classrooms, but if you have a series of 5 or 6 classrooms that are a cluster, we've been calling them clusters, other people call them classroom neighborhoods. Oftentimes what's happening is we're, you know, designers and MSBA is encouraging this as well because it works, is to take the corridor space and then maybe take a look. So the corridor, there's a corridor here in Situate and there's a corridor over here. And then if we can carve out a little bit of space in the middle, all of a sudden you find you have kind of a big common space for this classroom neighborhood. And it provides a sense of identity, community for these small learning groups. So this is one. Situate, I think, was broken up into 6 of these classroom neighborhoods. And you know, whether we have transparency or not is another issue, but a lot of times, you know, there was glass so that everyone kind of in this 6th grade pod has a sense of being in the same space. And as I said, kind of learning together. There's another kind of project room back here that's all glass. And then where these are in the middle of the plan, right? They're not on the outside wall. The importance of bringing natural daylight down into these spaces, which, you know, we've always intended to do at Pickering, and we'll show you how we think we're going to do it. But this is a floor opening to the 2nd floor, and then there's a skylight above that. So group projects take place. There might be pull-out activities where a few kids and an aide go out and you know, settle down and do a special project, or, you know, some I don't know, intensive things that while the rest of the class is in the classroom. In Boston, they set up their classroom neighborhoods so that they did have kind of these same living rooms. They happened to have an administrative position that was out, you know, whether it was an assistant principal or a counselor of some sort. And then they had counselor offices, social workers, you know, kind of, I'm not showing you the classrooms, but this was kind of the hub that they had a series of 6 classrooms working around. And Kevin or Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that's something I took away from this, and it's something that I related to, knowing that what had come out of the visioning project process. So we have a series of 5 floor plans, and I'm not going to go crazy, but I have 5 slides. And on the left side, kind of faded out a little bit, is what was submitted to the MSBA in our last submission, and what their facilities assessment committee subcommittee said, you know, wow, that's great, and we're going to approve you guys to go into schematic design. So where we had left it was that you come in at the Magnolia Park elevation into a lobby. The big feature is the community area. We had a gym, a stage that opened up to the gym and the cafeteria, and then the cafeteria itself. This is the setup that worked well at Thurgood Marshall. We've subsequently had some discussions and kind of thought about a new way to look at that, which is at Thurgood Marshall, you had a 12,000 square foot gym. I mean, it's big, it's a big double gym. And as part of this project, MSBA is only approving 6,000 square feet. We've shown 7 because we're going to provide for some bleachers. So we thought about, what if we don't have the stage in between and we have our 7,000 square foot gym, and then the cafeteria is 7,500 square feet. What if we just put them next to each other and we put an operable partition so that you can open that up for events and have 14,500 square feet? You can fit the whole Pickering community in, the kids, the staff, the parents. And remember that this is the same size school as Thurgood Marshall. So Thurgood Marshall has 12,000 square feet in their gym. This is a way that we can get it here at Pickering. The other thing that at both the Situate School and the Boston School, neither one of those had a stage. And so here, whether the stage was in the middle or we put the stage at the end, we have about 1,600 square feet that's reimbursable. What we thought we might do is make use of a portable stage, which I'd suggest maybe you set up here so that the sight lines are not as bad as they would be if the stage was here and, you know, people were way back at the end of the cafeteria. But anyway, if you had a portable platform, then you could use this multi-purpose area in a lot of different ways. And maybe that 1,600 square feet could be used for a black box theater. Now that's a drama space that was always a desire of the district. And we had it in at one point, then we took it out at one point because it, you know, the budget was a real issue. So we're assuming that MSBA would let us, would fund that as reimbursable in lieu of the stage. So we are tomorrow meeting with the school department, the district people in the afternoon, and we want to show them this as a possible layout and a definite change from what we had, you know, kind of cartooned before. Does anyone have any questions on that, or you want me to just keep? I'll just keep going.
Quick question, Gene, because I think it's seems like a good plan to try and address the money situation from the MSBA. Would that, so that space could be used for a lot of different things, including extra gym space if needed, if the without impeding on the CAF. So could you maybe add a couple of hoops down that end because the stage isn't there to take into account the limited or the less space than what you have at Marshall? So
yeah.
So you could really, it makes it really flexible to kind of come up with a plan that I think you've explained it pretty well. So
yeah, that's a good thought. You know, we'll have to think about the flooring, but maybe there are some extra hoops in here. Maybe even it's a weekend tournament or something, you know, when you're not using the CAF.
It's great space, and if you're able to use it in multiple ways and still get the MSBA approval on the space, that, you know, it does open up some other opportunities instead of a stationary stage that we can't get credit for anyway. So I think it's a good thought from my perspective.
Hey,
I have a question.
go ahead, Lorraine.
I just, the locker rooms are not abutting in any way, shape or form the gym.
Correct.
I mean, I think that when you change, there should be like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ridley and Karen, like you have a locker room, like you're coming out all sweaty and you're gonna walk down the hall. I don't,
Yeah, I'm just gonna say before Kevin comments, this is the setup that we have at Thurgood Marshall, Lorraine. And we do have kind of a very geometrically challenged footprint. You know, could the drama classroom go to this end and could the lockers come over closer to the gym? That's possible, but to get a proper size black box, it kind of has to be back in this corner. But I hear what you're saying. I just want you to know at Thurgood Marshall, you come out of the gym and across the hall and down the hall a little bit for lockers. Kevin, are you still here?
Yes, I just had a question. So where those two locker rooms are, I assume there would be an entrance in the top left corner of the gym.
Oh, yeah, right here,
Yeah,
yes.
so it's not 100 yards or anything like that. It's probably 30 feet that they would have to walk.
Right.
Just guessing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was gonna say. Lorraine, I think like, looks can be deceiving. I think that these are probably closer than they appear. And if I'm thinking about the school that I work in currently, that's a short walk that we're looking at on this design.
Jim, did you have a question?
No, they answered
Oh,
my question with with how close the locker room would be.
okay. So the other thing is, again, we were just trying to get the program in, but when you came in, we had administration and nurse and community health, but we had the elevators back here where we still do, but we kind of backed them up with a stair. We want to move that stair to the front. So when people come in after they're credentialed, it's obvious how to go up and down, kind of further into the building. We have this daylit lobby. It's 2 stories. So though the music rooms are kind of located in the center here, this would be glass walls to the extent possible so that we could bring natural daylight into those classrooms. We did want to place the music rooms on this floor level because, performances will be taking place in this multi-purpose area. And then we're trying to control guardians and parents and family that come in from meetings with service providers or administrators. So once you come into this vestibule, you can't get into the school until you're credentialed. You go into the admin suite, and then like right across the hall are all the guidance counselors, a lot of the guidance counselors or other, social workers, adjustment counselors, things like that. And then we have the special ed administration, which is kind of the main, the leader for special ed and a conference room. So we're trying to keep visitors to the front and not say, oh, go around the corner or go up to the, second floor. And then we have the medical suite down here and buried into the hillside. We did a big cafeteria storage room because we know if you do that portable platform, you're going to need a place to store it. So on the second floor, I think you've heard this before, but it was really important to the district, and it's a lesson learned from Thurgood Marshall that the life skills and coach special ed programs be on this floor, so that when there's a fire drill or heaven forbid or an actual emergency, they don't have to count on the elevator and they can just go right outside, and no one's going to have to carry anyone down a stair. So we do have the life skills. We moved the coach and we put a 5th major classroom in between, and that's picking up on one of the comments from the facilities assessment committee. There are the wood shop and drafting, and then Mike, the mechanical room is up here, but what I would say is it will be accessible from the upper level of the Sisson parking lot. at a certain point, we just run out. I guess, we run out of room because there's so many things that want to be on the first floor. But if that's a major problem, obviously we can keep working with you on that. So again, there's a skylight above here because there's that roof deck. And these walls here would be glass, so they'd be looking out into the, I'll call it an atrium or the second level of the lobby, and they'd be capturing a lot of natural light. So these are not going to feel like they're interior classrooms. We do have the guidance suite is here. One of the neat things that we saw in Situate was they had the admin office down below where the parent or guardian comes in. And then they had an internal stairway to go up to the guidance because they couldn't fit guidance on the first floor, and neither can we. So, we're thinking about, can we fit a stair in here that'll parents come in, they don't have to wander through the school and go upstairs to see a guidance counselor. They would just be still under control and land here. So whether that's a good value, whether it fits, I don't know, but it's something we thought we would explore. Not sure if there's any questions on this. The next 3 floors are kind of the academic, clusters or neighborhoods. So the 3rd floor, we always had 2 clusters for 6th grade. We were carving out small extended learning spaces for each cluster. And then once we saw these other possibilities, we said, wow, why don't we just combine them? And then, both, this is one cluster, this is another, both could use a much bigger space. So instead of having a 400 square foot space for this cluster and a 400 square foot space for this cluster, if we count the corridors, we could get almost 2,000 square feet of flexible kind of learning space. And I'm sure this won't be the final quote unquote layout, because you don't want just a big block of 2,000 square feet. You want to try to create some nooks and crannies and different size areas for small groups. But, we're starting to think about that. We have a teacher planning room here, which would have glass and would be able to oversee it, whoever's not in their classroom and in the planning room, obviously. And we'd try to have some transparency from the various classrooms. So if people are out here, even if they're with an aide, they're still connected to what's going on in their regular classrooms, and they're supervised. We have a core that is on each 3 floors with a single toilet room for each sex of students, and then staff toilets. And this again was a lesson learned from Thurgood Marshall. They said it's better to have one big group so we can monitor it instead of having smaller toilet rooms in each cluster. We have the assistant principal who can oversee that, and also the elevators. So we're trying to position administrative spaces so that they can, not that they're going to spend their whole day watching who's coming and going, but they can get a sense for what's going on in kind of these circulation areas. We have a special ed cluster. It's 4 classrooms, just like a regular ed cluster, science and 3 other subjects, but it's for intellectually impaired students, and we don't know what grade level those students will be. So we're splitting it between 2 floors. This is kind of on the 6th grade floor, and then on the floor above is the other part of that cluster. So we're treating it like a vertical cluster, and that again came out of the district's kind of desires. I'm going to flip back down. We know, like, looking out over Magnolia Park to Flax Pond is, a special view. So we did put the media center on the front of the building up on the 3rd floor, because below this is the 2-floor cafeteria. So they're going to have really great light on 2 sides, and then a really nice views out to the pond below. And it's nice when it's a community space like that, because every person at some point during the week is going to be in that space and be able to take advantage of the view. We have the AV, there's a TV studio, there's an editing classroom with computers. We have that on an interior space. It's perfect because it doesn't need any windows. And then we have the 2 movement studios, which are going to have an operable partition also. And remember, we kind of said, all right, well, we don't have room in the budget for a maker space, but we'll put storage in the movement studios and maybe electrical reels in the ceiling, but we'll outfit these so they're more than just a dance studio or a weight room, that they can be used for other academic purposes. And then there's the outdoor deck, which will be used for learning purposes. And I think I'll just go upstairs and kind of finish, but we have the last 6th grade cluster. There's 3 clusters per grade. And then we have 2 clusters up here for 7th grade. We have the 2 art studios. We have, that extended learning space. And here we're able to have the assistant principal oversee the elevator and the toilets, but also the staff planning room has the same views. So we're trying to think how we can support, kind of the safest and operation of the school, I'd say, for lack of a better way. But just making sure there's eyes on the common areas where kids are moving around. And then the upper floor is the same exact layout with 3 8th grade clusters and the last 7th grade, but then we have the cooking and sewing rooms instead of the 2 art rooms, or instead of the 2 movement studios. And we've been careful to try to think about how we're going to get natural light, from a skylight down into these extended learning spaces. So we have, we're thinking about where we'd have floor openings and, how that whole thing will work. So, as I said, we're going to get together. We have been discussing things with the district. We're kind of taking things we learned at Thurgood Marshall. We're taking things we saw at other schools, and we're trying to make the most flexible and educationally sound product we can. So I'll just, that's it for the floor plans. Steve Watchorn could talk about the site a little bit, but does anyone have any questions or thoughts that we should consider with the plans? I've put you all to sleep.
So Jean, the current gross square footage?
We are within 500 square feet of the program, which
Okay,
is
thank you.
pretty good when we're still, at this scale.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Steve, did you want to just touch briefly on what we're doing with the site?
Yeah, not much has changed, Gene. This graphic, I think people have seen. There's just a couple things that have changed that I'll point out. The circulation into the site and around to the entry to the school is the same off of Magnolia. Instead of having the traffic cut through the playground space, as Gene's showing here, it does continue on to Broadway, but we make a sharp left-hand turn back to, as you follow his cursor, back out to Magnolia Ave. It's a slight change, but it keeps vehicular traffic out of the hardscape play area, except for during those drop-off and pickup hours. Something that you may notice in the sort of that area behind Sisson Elementary School. We're trying to work out the access with ramps and sloping sidewalks to get from the back of Sisson School down to the hardscape play area, navigate that grade change in the elevation. Something else here at the front of the site along Magnolia Ave, and we'll talk a little bit about that as part of the Article 97 process. We're talking about retaining a community playground area. That was some feedback that we got, not only from the Parks Department when we met with them, but also as part of the Article 97 process of maintaining a 1-for-1 in that land conveyance. So we're showing that, and we've shifted the parking spaces. We're maintaining the same amount of parking spaces as shown previously. Those are just a few, tweaks that we're making to the site as that gets developed a little bit further.
Yep.
In the space.
The last time you saw it, this parking lot was kind of down right on Magnolia Ave. So what we've done is pulled it back up and then provided this area to, for a community playground, as Steve said. So, not only are we doing the building, we're, trying to nail down the site, because that's going to be another big process. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, and I'll let Lynn jump in as well, but just a quick overview on the Article 97 process. We are scheduling meetings with Conservation Commission, Parks Commission, and Planning Board. We need unanimous votes from them to agree to that this land will become surplus land on the conveyance of that land elsewhere in the city for protected parkland space, leading up to a city council meeting, which will include, there's a part of Magnolia Ave that was never quote unquote accepted, and that will be done through the legislature to accept that roadway along Magnolia Ave. Takings at Magnolia Playground, when I say takings, it's always within city ownership, but it's to sort of solidify that deeded right. And then we're showing an area here in green that we showed on the previous slide for the community playground. That is our intent to return to protected Article 97 protected space back to the Parks Department as well. That would happen at the conclusion of the project. So the City Council needs to vote on that disposition and look at, I think we've shown you previously, the Parkland Ave site and other locations within the city where we could have a 1-for-1 conveyance of that Article 97 protected land. And Lynn, do you have anything else?
No, we've put together 2 packets, one for Park and one for Conservation Commission. I don't believe Planning Board has to have a unanimous vote, but they are part of the process. And once the Park and the Conservation Commission vote, it will then go to City Council.
There are a lot of balls in the air.
Yes. So real quickly, I'll go through the schedule coming up. We have, our project is going to be before the MSBA Board of Directors next week, June 21st, for approval of the PSR and to approve us moving forward. We will continue to work on schematic design and give you another update on July 12th. We are also anticipating a preliminary MEPA review meeting on July 13th and targeting continued work on the Article 97 in the month of July. We anticipate having the final design and site layout to present to you by July 26th, and then we'll go into a cost estimating phase in preparation of putting together a budget that we have to submit to MSBA in advance of the schematic design meeting, and we're targeting, well, it has to be 2 weeks in advance, so it will be August 16th. we'll have the schematic design out to you for review. And we'll be asking you to vote to approve submitting it at the August 23rd meeting. And then we will submit schematic design to MSBA on or about August 30th. And that goes in a couple of months in advance of MSBA's Board of Directors approval of the schematic design, because we have to go through a pretty in-depth review of our proposal and our budget. Oftentimes we have to do another facilities assessment subcommittee meeting prior, but we should know fairly soon in September if the MSBA senior staff will be recommending approval of our project to the MSBA Board of Directors. We also anticipate, sorry, one thing I forgot to say is that our July and August school building committee meetings, we're going to do what we did similarly the last time we had a public forum, where we had the public forum first and then a quick SBC meeting afterwards. We are required to have community meetings for as part of the MEPA process. They have a new component to the MEPA filing, and that's environmental justice. And so based on that, we have to bring the community together and present the project and receive feedback from them. So we'll be doing that at those SBC meetings in July and August, the first one in August. Okay, next, all of this is currently being fast-tracked. We have been looking at various schedule scenarios in case we can't make this fast track, can't stay on track to keep the project going in this current fast tracked mode. So for now, we're working hard to be able to get a September 2026 school opening. As I said, we're continuously evaluating that to make sure that we are minimizing any risks to the city as we move forward. We certainly don't want to backtrack anywhere or not gain the right approvals as we move forward. So we're constantly evaluating, and so far we're being able to maintain this schedule. And I think, go ahead.
So it looks like Karen has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question regarding what Steve had just presented in terms of the roadway, the entrance into the school. So coming in off of Parkland, and then they're now looping around again to Parkland. So at one of our meetings, probably several months ago, it was brought up that if they're going in from Parkland and out to Broadway, there would need to be some type of a gate or a partition to prevent people from just, cutting through there in non-school time hours. So would this new pattern negate that, or, is there still going to be some type of a gate there to prevent that kind of cut through?
We still do show gates at either end of this lighter purple.
Okay.
So the intention is to keep these shut all the time, except maybe for an emergency, purpose.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lynn, did you have anything else?
I don't. I was just going to wrap it up by saying if anybody had any questions.
Are there any other additional questions? I feel like I say this every meeting about the budget, but I just, in light of the scheduling conversation, I want to point out that while we are continuing to work with the different state agencies on a solution to the financing of it, there's not a solution yet that's been confirmed, and without one, it's going to affect the timeline. And as a committee, we need to be prepared for that. Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for all your work on this. It is so exciting to see this be getting realer and realer. The design looks great, and appreciate everyone's hard work on that and everyone's feedback too. It's so helpful to be able to have your all experience doing this in your different capacities for over the course of your careers to be able to bring that to bear in these conversations. So we really appreciate you sharing that with us.
You all set, Lynn?
Yes, with that, I think we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, have a good night, everyone.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Work.
Good night.
That was quick.